I'm Bill Korak with a report card. We're here at the University of North Florida, where Newt Gingrich just spoke for the veterans, and we are here with Joel Ahrens of Veterans for a Strong America. Joel, tell us a little bit about Veterans for a Strong America.
What we are is we're an all-veterans organization working to elevate the national security debate in the 2012 election. You know, we understand jobs in the economy are the #1 issues confronting the next commander-in-chief, the next president. But also, what people need to understand is that when they go to vote in November of 2012, they're also voting for a commander-in-chief. So what we want to do is we want to introduce veterans, citizens, and just other voters to the next potential commander-in-chief.
Joel, our focus are the schools, specifically public schools. David McCullough, the Pulitzer Prize-winning author of John Adams in 1776, said, "Our students' ignorance of history is tantamount to a national security threat." We also know that in the absence of instruction in our history and our ethics, that we have organizations like the Council on Islamic Relations coming in and talking to the schools. What would your stand be on these kinds of organizations in schools?
You know what? I'm absolutely opposed to an organization like CARE coming into our schools. These people, through legal documents and through legal proceedings, depositions, it's been proven that CARE is involved in funding terrorist organizations. I don't know why any school in their right mind would want to allow an organization that has ties to terrorist organizations to come into our schools in the United States. You know, in our schools today, we don't let drug dealers in. We don't let people who are going to harm our kids in. We don't even allow pop and snacks and certain types of candy come into our schools. But when we allow an organization like CARE to come into our schools and talk to our kids, it's dangerous.
Do you have any experience with radical Islam?
You know, I served as a platoon leader, as a first lieutenant in Iraq from late '03 to early 2005. I've seen what radical Islam does. I've seen those car bombs. I've seen how radical Islamists target innocent human beings. I've seen that ideology manifest itself in pure evil. And you know what? There's organizations like CARE today who are working to kind of with this creeping Sharia here in America, who are working to plant the seeds of the Sharia code and Sharia law that finds itself manifest in places like the Middle East. You know, we see the same thing over there manifest in extraordinary acts of violence. But here we see organizations like CARE manifest itself, you know, planting these little seeds in our schools now.
We heard earlier from Frank Gaffney that CARE is linked to Hamas, and Hamas, of course, is a recognized terrorist organization and has been causing disturbances in the Middle East. Does it surprise you to know that they're active over here with this cultural assault on our schools?
It's not a surprise at all. You know what? And actually, that's the best term for it. You know, they're not going to assault us in the streets like they do in Iraq and Afghanistan. But what they are going to do is they're going to try to infiltrate into our schools, try to get in front of young, impressionable children. And in our public school systems, you're going to find a welcome audience. You're going to find some administrators out there, these politically incorrect teachers and administrators who love to bring these kinds of organizations into the classroom because they think they're being politically correct. But what they don't understand is what we've seen. We've seen it in intelligence reports. We've seen it in filings in federal court. I mean, it is proven that CARE coordinates and does some fundraising for terrorist organizations. We just can't have it in our schools.
Now, what steps are you taking specifically, your organization, to focus on this this CARE in the schools?
You know, what we're concerned about is Sharia in the military. And there's military schools out there as well, Department of Defense schools, and it's a pervasive issue. You know, if it comes up in one area, it's gonna bubble up in another area. And so, while we haven't started on a project in the schools yet, what we are starting to do is work with it in the military. You see it with Major Nadal Hassan and the unwillingness of parts of, commanders in the military to want to deal with these issues when they were presented with them the first time. So we see it there. We see it with how this administration allowed Private Abdu to become a conscientious objector as a result of saying he didn't want to kill other Muslims. Nobody wants to kill anybody, but when you join the military, you join to go and fight America's enemies.
So would you say that the same sort of thinking that is allowing these people in the schools, is this now going into the military?
Absolutely. CARE is launching a full-out frontal assault on every front they can. It's happening in the military with people like Hassan and Abdu. It's happening with CARE in the schools. And what they're working to do, they can't launch spectacular attacks here like they can in Iraq and Afghanistan, but what they can do is they can start to plant these seeds of cultural doubt in the minds of impressionable people. And so you find impressionable people in the military. It's a large organization. You're going to find them with kids in schools.
So, Joel, what would you advise parents and concerned citizens to do who realize that this is a problem but feel like, what can I do?
When people understand just how radical CARE is, and I don't mean radical politically, I mean radical in the sense of they're affiliated with Hamas. Hamas supports terrorism. If that was my school, I'd pull my kid out. I would not be going to a school that had CARE coming into my classroom and talking to my children. But you know what? We all understand. You can't just pull your kids out of school. So you've got to go the democratic route. You've got to start talking to the school boards. You've got to start talking to administrators. You got to start doing your homework. You know what I would have parents do? Get some interested attorneys out there to pull the legal filings that show what CARE's been doing here in America, and some of the legal issues that have come up as a result of Department of Justice investigations into their activities. Present that to administrators. Present that to school leaders. Get the truth out there. And then the third thing they need to do is they need to get public about it. Letters to the editor, phone calls, letter writing campaign. Start talking to people. Let them know just how bad of an organization CARE is.
Thank you, Joel. Joel Aaron, Veterans for a Strong America.